We followed a map of red pins dropped at 1-minute intervals. Alleys, stairwells, basements, then one pin inside the poster's own apartment. No typo, no reset. This is LurmoStories. Coordinates don't lie. Sleep does. If you know the address, don't go. I'm posting this months later from my apartment, and I still keep the blinds shut. Last fall, I agreed to watch my coworker's cabin for a week. Not really a cabin, just an old one-story house at the edge of a small town in upstate New York. He called it his dacha because his grandparents used it as a summer place. The town was one main street, a gas station, a diner, then houses thinning out. His place was the last one before the woods. Backyard, crooked wire fence, then trees. No streetlights back there, just a single security lamp over the gravel driveway. It sounded perfect. I work remote, thought I'd get quiet and free rent. He said the house was a little weird at night, but laughed. "You're a city kid," he told me. "You'll hear raccoons and freak out." I got there late October. The house looked tired. Peeling paint, sagging porch, screen door that didn't quite close. The woods behind it were just a dark mass, all trunks and branches pressed together. Inside was better. Old, but clean. Wood paneling, faded couch, small kitchen with a window facing the tree line. Every window had beige plastic blinds, all tilted open at the exact same angle, like someone had gone around adjusting them by hand. I met one neighbor while unloading. Middle-aged woman in a diner hoodie, smoking on her porch 2 houses down. She watched me for a while, then called, "You staying at Mark's?" "Yeah, just for the week," I said. She looked past me at the backyard. "Keep the back door locked," she said. "Kids mess around back there." She didn't explain, just went inside. I told myself she meant teenagers sneaking smokes in the woods. Nothing worse. By 11 that night, I'd finished some work, made pasta, and was on the couch with the TV on low. I kept glancing at the sliding glass door that led to the yard. The forest was a wall of black. No moon, no stars in that direction, just the faint reflection of the living room in the glass. I couldn't shake the feeling that if someone stood just inside the tree line, I wouldn't see them until they stepped out of it. The thought hit so hard, I actually got up and checked the lock on the slider. It was fine. I checked it again anyway. The bedroom was at the back of the house. One window, straight toward the woods. Same blinds, same angle. I almost closed them all the way, then stopped. For some reason that felt worse, like turning my back on an open door. I left them as they were and got into bed. I don't know what woke me. No car, no thunder, no nightmare. One second I was out, the next I was staring at the ceiling, heart pounding, mouth dry. The digital clock said 3:17 a.m. It took me a moment to understand what felt wrong. The room was too dark. The security light over the driveway should have leaked around the edges of the blinds, just enough to outline the doorway and dresser. Instead, the window was a flat, perfect black rectangle, like the glass wasn't there. I was still telling myself the bulb had burned out when I heard the screen door at the back of the house creak slowly open. I froze. The sound was so clear I could picture the way the metal frame flexed. A soft thump followed, like the door easing back against the house and stopping on the latch instead of closing. The back door in the kitchen was the only way to that porch. I told myself it was wind. Old houses move, screens rattle, wood pops. I repeated that in my head as I slid out of bed, feet searching for the cold floor, every part of me wanting to stay under the covers and pretend I hadn't heard anything. My phone flashlight cut a thin tunnel through the dark. Beam on the carpet, on the doorway, on the edge of the couch. I swept it slowly toward the kitchen, trying not to breathe so loud. The glass slider to the yard was on my left. I almost didn't want to look, but my hand moved the light anyway. For a second, all I saw was my reflection and the cone of light bouncing back. Then my brain registered it. The blinds were tilted in the opposite direction. I stopped breathing completely. Before bed, I'd gone around, touching each little plastic rod, making sure they all pointed slightly down, so nobody could see in from outside. Now, they were tilted slightly up. Same exact angle, same careful adjustment, just reversed, like someone had stood here and methodically turned each one. I hadn't heard that sound. Hadn't heard anyone in the house. I forced myself to check the slider. The lock was still snapped down, metal bar in place. I pushed on the frame. Solid. I even rattled it a little, like an idiot, as if whoever had done this might still be standing there, waiting to be discovered. The yard beyond the glass was only darkness and the faint shapes of the fence posts. The woods were just a deeper strip of black. No eye shine, no movement, Nothing. In the kitchen, the back door was closed. The old wood was cool under my fingers. I turned the deadbolt. It was already locked. I stood there with my hand on the knob, suddenly aware of how quiet the house was. Not suburban quiet, not city quiet, the kind where you can hear your own pulse in your ears, and every tiny sound becomes important. I should have called someone. Police, Mark, anybody. Instead, I ended up dialing the only number that felt remotely normal, the diner neighbor. Mark had left her contact in case of emergencies with a little smiley face. It rang 4 times. On the 5th, she picked up, voice thick with sleep. Yeah? I kept my eyes on the window while it rang, expecting a face to appear in the glass. Yeah? She said again, sharper. Sorry, it's me from Mark's place, I whispered. Did you just open my back door?
What? No. What's going on?
I heard the screen door, and the blinds moved. Someone was in here. Silence. Then, don't go outside. Turn on all the lights. Stay away from the windows. I'm calling the sheriff. The call ended. I went room to room, flipping switches, trying not to look at the glass. Every window I passed, the blinds were tilted up. Living room, bathroom, the tiny office, someone had touched all of them. I sat in the hallway where I couldn't see outside, knees pulled up, phone in my hands. That's when the security light clicked on. White light spilled under the back door. Something had moved in the yard. The light stayed on. Then a slow, dry sound at the slider, fingertips dragging from top to bottom. They traced the window, moved to the kitchen glass, following the path I'd walked. Headlights rolled over the front curtains. The dragging stopped. The security light cut out. Gravel crunched. Doors slammed. Sheriff's office, a man called. My legs barely worked, but I stood. 2 deputies and the neighbor swept the house, checking locks, closets, the attic. Out back, under the light, the older deputy pointed to the dirt along the foundation. Smeared footprints beneath each window. Probably some local punk, he said. We'll patrol. Keep the doors locked, lights on. Call if anything else happens. After they stepped away, the neighbor looked at me. You didn't look out, did you? I shook my head. Good. You're not the first. The guy before Mark lasted 2 weeks, said the woods were too close, and left. Nobody ever sees anyone. Just blinds moved, lights, footsteps. You leaving tomorrow? She asked. I'm supposed to stay all week. If you've got anywhere else, go. I didn't sleep. At sunrise, I packed. On my way out, I glanced at the kitchen window. The blinds were tilted down again, exactly how I'd left them, except for one slat, chest height, bent just enough that an eye could line up with the gap. Someone had stood there after the deputies left, close enough not to trip the motion sensor. I left the key on the table and drove until there were no trees near the road. Now I'm on the 5th floor in another state, blinds shut all the time, waking at 3 a.m., convinced the room is wrong. I told myself I'd post this just to get it out of my head. Really, I'm hoping whoever stood in that yard doesn't read X. I went back to my hometown in Ohio this summer for the first time in years. Not for anything dramatic, just my mom nagging me about visiting while she's still around, and a cheap flight. I figured I'd stay a few days, eat her cooking, pretend the town didn't make my skin crawl anymore. It didn't work. Everything looked smaller. The strip mall, where we used to hang out, is mostly empty now. Half the houses on our street have new families I don't recognize. But the one thing that hadn't changed was the middle school sitting on the hill at the edge of town. The long brick rectangle with the green windows and the weird flat roof. My mom still drives past it on the way to the grocery store. First day back, we hit the same route we used to, like muscle memory. She was talking about some neighbor's divorce when the school came into view. I stopped listening mid-sentence. The building hit me like a smell you forgot about. The parking lot, the chain link fence, the side entrance next to the band room. And underneath all of that, like a word I didn't want to remember, the tunnels. I hadn't thought about them in years. At least, that's what I've been telling myself. When I was 12, if you went all the way down to the far end of the lower hallway, past the music room and the old vending machines, there was a door that didn't make sense. Gray metal, no class or number, just a faded sign that said authorized personnel only, and a deadbolt that always stayed locked. Teachers never touched it. The janitor never touched it. But if you walked that hallway alone, you could feel cold air leaking from the bottom, like there was a whole other building breathing down there. Kids had stories, obviously. Bomb shelter, maintenance tunnels, a secret way to the high school. Some 8th grader swore his cousin said there were rooms under there from when the place was some kind of residential school in the 50s. Nobody could prove any of it, but everyone knew one thing. The humming. If you went out to the backfield and stood by the far fence, you could feel a vibration under your shoes. You'd hear it too if you really listened. This low, constant hum that didn't match any machine upstairs. It was deeper, slower, like something big spinning under concrete. In 7th grade, me and my friends Mark and Dylan made the tunnels our thing. We talked about them, dared each other to get closer to that door, but none of us actually tried the handle. We finally did it because of a fire drill. December, already dark by 4. They made us do a full evacuation during last period, then marched us back in through the side door by the band room. The hallway there was almost empty. Mark nudged me. "Watch this," he whispered. As the line slowed to squeeze past a teacher with a clipboard, he fell back just enough to touch the gray door handle. He didn't turn it, just pressed. It moved. Not much, but enough that I saw the latch shift. The deadbolt wasn't thrown. The thing we'd spent a year turning into a story wasn't even locked. Later that week, Mark stole the janitor's keys. The guy left them hanging on a hook in the supply closet. Mark didn't take the whole ring, just one small brass key he thought matched the tunnel door. He palmed it through Jim, then slipped it back when he forgot his water bottle. He showed the copy to us after school, behind the dumpsters, tied to a piece of shoelace. "We go down," he said. "Look around, 5 minutes, then we're out." Dylan was pale. "If they catch us." "They won't. There's a basketball game tonight. Teachers will all be in the gym or home. I checked the schedule. We hang around after band. That's it." Right before buses were called, the principal came on the intercom and talked about restricted areas and recent vandalism. But nobody searched us. Nobody watched when we stayed behind. By 6, the sky was black and the building felt half asleep. Dull thumps from the gym, a squeak of sneakers, a whistle in the vents. Our band teacher got a phone call and stepped out into the hallway to take it. Mark's eyes met mine. Then he just walked out of the music room. The hallway felt wrong, empty. You don't notice how much noise 30 kids make until it's gone. The hum of the lights and the buzz from the soda machine sounded huge. At the far end, the gray door waited like part of the wall. Up close, it wasn't. Scratches circled the handle. Thin half-moons, like people with rings, had turned that knob 1,000 times. The paint at the bottom was worn off in a neat arc. Mark slid the key into the deadbolt. It turned with a soft click I felt in my teeth. For a second, nothing happened. Then there was a low thud, like something heavy far below shifted its weight. Cold air leaked from the crack at the bottom, smelling like concrete, mold, and something sharp underneath. Bleach, maybe. Mark looked back at us. "Last chance to chicken out," he said. Nobody moved. The stairs ended at a second door, plain wood with wired glass painted over. Mark pressed his ear to it, then pushed. It opened easily. The hallway beyond was low and straight, lit by bare bulbs, pipes overhead, smooth concrete with 2 dark tracks down the middle, like a cart path. Doors lined both sides, some metal, some wood, a few with small windows covered from the far side. We walked right on the tracks without talking. Dylan whispered, "I want to go back." Mark said, "End of the hall and we're done." About 4 doors in, one was cracked open, a strip of yellow light cutting across the floor. Mark touched it and it swung inward. The room was small, no windows, one buzzing fluorescent, bare walls with pale rectangles where charts had been. In the center stood a narrow metal bed frame, bolted to the floor with leather straps hanging from the sides. On the far wall was a pane of glass the size of a whiteboard. It didn't show us. It showed the bed, the walls, the doorway, and nothing behind us. Whatever was on the other side was just darkness. Someone could have been standing there, inches away, watching. Dylan stepped back. "We're done. I mean it." That was when we heard the wheels. A slow squeak, metal on concrete, rolling toward us from somewhere down the hall. The vibration crept up through my shoes. Mark hit the light. We slid under the bed. The floor was cold. Dust burned my throat. Mark's hand clamped around my ankle. The sound grew louder, then stopped right outside the door. From where I lay, I could see a thin slice of hallway, the corner of a steel cart, the cuff of a dark pant leg, a long shape under a sheet. The hand on the rail was big and pale. It didn't move. The humming under everything climbed until it felt like it was in my teeth. We lay there, faces pressed to the concrete, counting breaths, waiting for the handle to turn. It never did. After a long time, the wheels squeaked again and rolled away. When the sound finally faded, we crawled out and ran, following the tracks until a stairwell dumped us near the cafeteria. Suddenly, there was noise, whistles, the echo from the gym.
A teacher grabbed Dylan as he stumbled. His ankle had already swollen. In the office, we told them he'd fallen by the bleachers. The principal watched us too long, then said those lower areas were sealed for safety, and if we ever went near them again, we'd be out of the school. The next week, the gray door in the lower hallway had a steel plate bolted over it and a new camera. We never went back. We barely spoke about it. Years went by. Every time I thought about that bed and that glass, I told myself it was some old medical wing and tried to let it go. This summer, my mom drove past the school, and I saw the construction fence around the back field. They dug a square hole by the far fence. From the road, I could see a concrete wall with a doorway and 3 steps going down. 2 days later, the doorway was gone. Fresh concrete, smooth and pale in the dirt. You can still feel the hum if you stand by the fence long enough, like a train running under a station that isn't on any map. I'm writing this because I can't shake the thought that our school wasn't the only one. If you grew up in the States and remember a locked door, a low vibration in the floor, dead sections of the building everyone pretended weren't there, I want to hear it. On bad nights, I wake up at 3 a.m. and lie still in the dark, listening for that slow squeak in the hallway, waiting to find out where it stops. I live alone in a 1-bedroom apartment above a laundromat. Nothing fancy, just a beige box with flickering fluorescent lights in the hallway and a view of the alley behind a diner. I work remote IT support, so I'm home most nights, surrounded by the hum of my monitors and the low whine of the fridge. The city outside never really sleeps, but around 2 a.m., it gets this strange stillness, like someone turned the volume down on everything. Last week, the building had one of those random blackouts. Everything went off at once. The fan, the lights, even my laptop battery died mid-ticket. The silence hit me like a wall. Then I heard it. 3 slow knocks coming from somewhere behind the apartment wall. I thought maybe it was a pipe or something, but it didn't sound metallic. It sounded deliberate, like knuckles. I stood there, waiting. Then it came again. 3 knocks, a pause, then one more. I turned on my phone flashlight, checked the hallway. Empty. The emergency lights were out too. Just this dim glow from the exit sign at the end. I swear, when I stepped back into my apartment, the air felt heavier. I waited for the power to come back. 15 minutes. Then 20. I sat on my couch, scrolling Reddit, trying to ignore how quiet it was. Every small sound, the wood creaking, the fridge cooling, made my chest tighten. Then the light under my bathroom door flickered. It was dim, but I saw it. A thin orange glow, like a candle or something burning faintly behind the door. But I don't own candles. I froze. My phone flashlight wavered. The knocks started again, this time from inside the bathroom. I didn't move for maybe 2 minutes, just listened. There was a sound of something wet dragging against tile, a soft scrape, then a whisper, too low to make out, but definitely a voice. And then, like nothing had happened, the power came back. The lights blinded me. The hum of the fridge, the fans, everything. Normal again. I opened the bathroom door. Nothing. No glow, no marks, just steam, like someone had taken a shower recently. I don't know why, but I checked the mirror. My reflection was fogged, except for one clean streak across the glass, like someone had wiped it down from inside. I didn't sleep that night. The next day, I tried to tell myself it was stress. I'd been working 12-hour shifts, drinking too much coffee, barely leaving the apartment. Maybe I'd hallucinated the light. Maybe the knocks were from next door. Easy explanations. That's what I told myself. But that night, I noticed something else. Around 1:45 a.m., I was on a call with a client when the line went silent. Total dead air. I thought my Wi-Fi dropped, but the router lights were fine. Then my monitor flashed white, just for a split second, and I saw a reflection in the glass, a shape standing behind me. I spun around so fast I nearly fell off the chair. No one was there. The hallway was empty, lights steady, but the air felt thick again, like before. Then my speakers made this faint clicking noise, like someone trying to talk through static. At first, I thought it was feedback from my mic, but then I realized it was rhythmic. 3 clicks, pause, 1 click. Same pattern as the knocks. I unplugged everything, just sat there, staring at the blank screen, feeling stupid. At 2:06 a.m., the power went out again. This time, I didn't move, didn't check anything, just sat there in the dark, gripping my phone. After about a minute, I heard something shuffle down the hall outside. Slow. barefoot. The sound passed my door, then stopped right outside it. I covered my mouth, holding my breath. The footsteps didn't move for what felt like forever. Then came a faint tap. Not on the door, but on the peephole. Like someone brushing a fingernail across the glass. The sound slid downward, tracing along the wood until it reached the bottom of the door. Then silence. I turned my phone camera on, crawled to the door, and aimed it at the peephole. Pitch black. I took a photo anyway. When the lights flickered back on a second later, I looked at the picture. It was mostly darkness, but near the bottom edge, there was something pale, like a hand pressed against the threshold. Thin fingers. Too long. I deleted it immediately. But when I went to bed an hour later, I realized my phone had taken 3 photos in a row. The second one showed nothing. The third had a shape bending down, like it was looking under the door. I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard those slow, dragging steps circling the hallway outside. By morning, I was exhausted. I thought about calling the landlord, but how do you explain something like that? Hey, the lights keep going out and something's knocking inside my walls. They'd think I'm crazy. That night, I taped over the peephole. The third night, I didn't even try to sleep. I left all the lights on, the TV running, my laptop streaming random videos just for the noise. I figured whatever was happening only came when it was quiet, when everything stopped humming. Around 2 a.m., the TV screen froze. The audio kept looping, this low, distorted murmur. Then the lights went out again. Not a flicker this time, just dead. I grabbed my phone. The flashlight wouldn't turn on, just kept glitching, flickering white for half a second at a time. In one flash, I saw my reflection in the black TV screen. In the next, I saw something else behind me, tall, bent forward, like it was leaning close to see what I was doing. The air felt wrong, heavy, thick, almost humid. I turned toward the kitchen, and I swear the outline of someone moved past the counter, fast. Then, another sound, the creak of the bathroom door. I had left it closed. I stepped backward toward the front door, fumbling for my keys. When I touched the handle, it was warm, almost hot. Then that knocking again, not from the wall this time, from the inside of the apartment. 3 knocks. Pause. 1 knock. I ran for the breaker panel. Everything was fine. No trip switches, just darkness pressing on every corner of the room. Then the smell hit me. Damp, metallic, like rust and wet earth. It came from the bathroom, from behind that door. I told myself to open it, to prove nothing was there. So I did. Inside was steam again. The mirror was fogged over. In the center of it, someone had drawn a line down the glass, then 4 vertical slashes beside it, like tallies. 5 marks total. I wiped the mirror. My reflection came into view, but it wasn't right. The face was mine, but the eyes were looking slightly to the left, at something behind me. I turned. The bathroom light flickered once. Then, everything went black again. When the power came back an hour later, I was sitting on the floor of the hallway. My bathroom door was open, the light inside steady. Nothing out of place. But all over the inside of the door, faintly etched into the paint, were those same tallies. 5 of them. I moved out that morning. Left the keys in the mailbox. Didn't even pack everything. The new place is across town. Newer building, good lighting. But 2 nights ago, at 2:06 a.m., my monitor flashed white for a second. Then I heard it. 3 slow knocks, somewhere deep in the walls. And last night, when I went to brush my teeth, the bathroom mirror had 5 fresh streaks running down the glass. I moved into the apartment on the 1st of October. The landlord, a quiet old man named Mr. Henley, handed me the keys with shaking hands and told me not to worry about the noise at night. Old pipes and bad wiring, he said. It was the cheapest room I could find near campus, so I didn't ask questions. The building looked like something out of another decade. Peeling green paint, buzzing fluorescent lights in the hallway, and a faint chemical smell that seemed to come from the walls themselves. My unit, 3B, had a single window that faced the opposite wing of the building, maybe 10 feet away. Across from me, identical windows lined the dull gray facade. I noticed one of them had its curtain drawn halfway, and for a second, I thought I saw someone standing there, still as a mannequin. But when I looked again, it was just dark. The first few nights were fine. I unpacked my stuff, got used to the hum of the fridge, the occasional footsteps above. But by the 5th night, I started waking up at exactly 3:11 a.m. Every time. No sound, no dream, just sudden awareness, my heart already pounding like I'd been startled. I check my phone, turn on the small desk lamp, and see nothing wrong. Just the yellowed walls, my half-open closet, and that window looking back at me. Then came the knocking. 3 soft knocks. Always from the other side of my wall, the one that separated 3B from 3C. The first night, I ignored it. The second night, it came again. Same rhythm, same spot. When I mentioned it to Mr. Henley, he said 3C was unoccupied. Been empty for years, he told me, eyes shifting toward the floor. I stopped sleeping much after that. I'd sit at my desk, pretending to study, and sometimes I'd hear faint breathing through the vent. Not regular mechanical sounds, actual slow breaths, uneven, like someone struggling to stay quiet. I once whispered, "Hello?" and the breathing paused. Then something scraped the inside of the vent, a dragging sound, deliberate, moving away. By the end of the week, the air in the apartment started to smell metallic, like wet coins. The window across from mine had its curtain open again, and I could swear there was someone standing in that dark room. Not moving, not turning on any lights, just standing there. When I finally went down to the lobby to ask about who lived opposite me, the woman at the desk gave me a strange look. "There's no apartment across from 3B, she said. I told her I could see it from my window. She smiled, but her face looked strained. "Not anymore," she said. "That part of the building was sealed off after the fire." I didn't go back upstairs for hours. But when I finally did, my door was already open. The door wasn't broken or forced, just open, like I'd forgotten to close it. But I knew I had. The air inside was colder than the hallway, sharp with that same metal scent. I called out, half expecting someone to answer. Nothing. My books were still on the desk, my phone charger coiled neatly on the floor. But the window was different. The curtain was pulled wide open now, and the glass looked darker than usual, almost reflective. Across from me, the sealed-off side, there was light for the first time. A dull orange glow, like a lamp through fogged glass. And I could see movement, slow, steady, the shape of someone walking past the window, over and over again, as if pacing. I closed the curtain. That night, I didn't even bother lying down. I sat on the bed, wrapped in a hoodie, staring at the door. Around 3 a.m., the breathing came back, not through the vent this time, from behind the wall. It was louder now, closer, followed by a sound like nails tracing along plaster. I pressed my ear against it and felt a vibration, not mechanical, but rhythmic. A heartbeat, heavy and slow. Something whispered, so close I could almost feel the breath. "Don't sleep." I jerked back and turned on every light in the room. The whisper stopped, but the smell grew stronger, like rust and rot. I thought about leaving, but outside the window, I saw it again, that orange light flickering in the sealed-off building. And this time, the figure wasn't pacing. It was facing me. Its head tilted slightly, like it was trying to see better through the glass. I grabbed my phone, opened the camera, but the screen only showed my reflection. No light, no figure, just my own pale face. I lowered the phone, and the figure was gone. That's when I noticed something scratched into the paint beneath the window. Thin letters, written in what looked like rust, but smelled like old blood. "Stay awake." I barely made it through the next day. Every time I blinked too long, I'd see flashes of that orange glow, like an after image burned into my eyes. Mr. Henley caught me in the hallway and asked if I was all right. I told him about the light across the way. His expression changed instantly. "You saw it?" he whispered. "Don't look at it again. That place, it remembers." He wouldn't explain, just told me to keep my curtains closed and my lights on at night. But that evening, when I got back to 3B, the light switch didn't work. The bulbs were all fine, I checked them, but the power was dead. The window curtain had been drawn back again, and in the reflection of the glass, I saw something moving behind me, even though I was standing completely still. I turned around fast. Nothing. The room was empty, but the reflection in the window kept lagging behind, like it didn't want to match me. I raised my hand slowly, and in the glass, my reflection didn't move. It just stared, pale, hollow-eyed, lips parted slightly, as if it were about to say something. Then the lights came back on by themselves, dim, flickering. The reflection smiled. That broke me. I threw on my jacket, grabbed my bag, and bolted. But as soon as I stepped into the hall, the door across from mine, the one that supposedly didn't exist, stood open. The smell pouring out of it was unbearable. Damp concrete, burnt plastic, something like meat left too long in heat. There was no number on the door, just a smudged handprint near the handle. I should have kept walking, I know that. But it was like something was pulling at me, quiet and heavy, urging me to look inside. The room was blackened, walls warped, floor covered in ash and old soot. A single lamp lay on the floor, its bulb flickering weakly, casting orange light over everything. And against the far wall, I saw a bed, or what was left of one. Sheets fused to the frame, melted plastic pooled underneath. Something was on the bed. At first, I thought it was just burned fabric. Then, I saw the shape beneath it. Curled, human. Charred fingers clutched the edge of the mattress, as if trying to get out. I stepped closer, heart hammering in my throat. The head turned. It wasn't possible. The thing had no face, just blackened skin that cracked when it moved. But I heard it whisper anyway, a dry, rasping voice that came from somewhere inside the walls. Stay awake. I stumbled back, tripped into the hallway, and the door slammed shut behind me so hard the plaster cracked. Every other door in the corridor banged once in unison. Then silence. When I finally got outside, the night air hit me like cold water. The entire building loomed over me. Only one window lit up, my window. And behind the glass, my reflection was still standing there, motionless. I left everything. My clothes, my laptop, my books. Moved across town, started sleeping in the library some nights. But it doesn't matter. I wake up at 3:11 a.m. no matter where I am. Always to that same metallic smell, that faint orange light flickering somewhere I can't find. I got an email yesterday from an unknown sender. No subject line, no text in the body, just a single attachment, a photo. It's my room in 3B, taken from the other side of the window. You can close the tab, you can shut off your phone, but the connection doesn't break that easily. Every watch, every second, every click leaves a trace. And sometimes, something follows it back. If the signal cuts out, don't try to reload. Don't open another video. Just wait. This was LurmoStories. Connection lost. Or maybe restored somewhere else.